Welcome, everyone, to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building Podcast, where we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank. And of course, if you are with us, as you should be most of the time, we talk about without breaking your bank, which is the most important bank. I am Dave Braun, and I'm here with my partner, fantastic business mentor, coach, but most importantly, and this is the most important thing, he's just a great friend of mine, Larry Broughton. Hey, Larry, how you doing, man? What? There. Oh, I've got one of these things too. Hold on. All right, we're taking a pause here. Hold on.
All right.
Where is it? Okay. Here's my applause meter. You ready?
Yes. It's very good.
I need to keep it on my desk instead of hidden.
Exactly. Hello, David. How are you, buddy? Good to see you. What a great week it's been so far.
Oh, yeah. Crazy busy weeks like normal, huh?
Yeah, it's been great. And thank you for all your friendship and leadership and all these projects we're working on. Man,
absolutely. It's a pleasure. It's fun.
There's a lot going on.
Oh, we have a lot going on. That's the only way to be, though, huh?
I guess so. That's what I hear.
Yeah. Well, we've got a great question today.
Right.
And, it's something I think it's really, really important as we work with our teams remotely, because it's about virtual assistants, but it does apply to people in person as well. But here it is. Here's the question is, what is your take or your opinion on the Zoom fatigue phenomenon?
Zoom fatigue. Before we do that, it reminded me, thinking about our Victory Masterclass that we just had last Thursday, about how powerful that ahas section was.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get to ask you, have you had any ahas in the past week or victories that you want to share with the group, and then we can go back and answer the question?
Well, one of the things that I've learned from you, and I think that's so important, is obviously leaders are learners, but we as leaders, we should be having aha moments all the time.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Aha
you
moments.
Have to stop and reflect on it, though. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've got this little booklet. Says, "Our dreams are a source of my wisdom," and you have one too.
Oh, I've got a stack of them, but yes.
Yeah. Well, and they're available on store.ugozi.com. But what's really nice about them is they're just little, small, and you can put them in your pocket if you want. But I keep one right at the base of my monitor so that whenever something happens, I just open it up real quick. I put the date and I just write a quick note of what an aha is, right?
Right. Yeah.
So I'm starting to, I have, pretty decent collection from now and from the past.
Yeah.
Okay. So here was one aha that I thought was really kind of fun.
Okay.
We do an exercise. You talk about the Victory Masterclass. We do an exercise where we go through and write down our sphere of influence, right?
Yep. We do that.
Right. People who we are affecting could be team members, family members, friends, people we're connected to on social media in a closer way.
Right. And the reason we do that is so that people get their brain around, or try to get their brain around, that we have direct and indirect impact on a lot more people than we think that we do. So whether we're doing great things or we're cutting corners and doing nefarious things, we could impact people. So that oftentimes includes family, team members. Don't forget team members' families, because if my business goes down and they lose their job, it's not just impacting that team member, it's impacting their family, vendors, clients, right? And all of a sudden you start, and then if you do public speaking or TV or anything like that, your sphere of influence is huge, right? Social media stuff. So I'm sorry, Dave, I interrupted you, but I want to make sure that people understand what we're talking about when we talk about sphere of influence.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I realized by doing it this last time is there really is a second level of influence.
Yes.
That we were really talking about. And that second level is that, some of the folks in our class, if their sphere of influence is 100,000, that makes mine go up really by 100,000, because I'm influencing the person in the class. Even if I'm not, we're one of the instructors, you're the main instructor, but even if I'm a participant in the class, something that I say, a question that I ask could be, lead to a breakthrough for one of the other members in the class as well. So when we are together in a group of people, we have that second level effect. If we choose to use it and participate, give comments, ask questions, and help others.
Some people call this the butterfly effect, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean by that, people?
Yeah.
Got one butterfly flapping its wings. All of a sudden, if you get this, swarm of butterflies, you can feel it. It just, this ripple effect happens, right? It's like having one little honeybee. What kind of impact can one little honeybee have, right? But when they're in a hive, they can actually survive the winters by their body heat and movement of this hive of honeybees, and you'd be surprised, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a great aha, Dave. I'm glad you shared that.
Yeah, that was good. Well, I guess we should probably get to the question.
Let's go back to the question. So the question was, what are our thoughts about Zoom fatigue?
Right.
Yeah, basically, right? Well, like anything new, I'm sure there are phenomenons that happen. And there are days. It's not just Zoom. I think it's any kind of video conferencing service, right? Because I believe that we are built for community, and something happens when we have real physical interaction and you actually can feel people's energy in one room. If you're an extrovert, that charges you up, right?
Yes.
But if all day long you're looking at this two-dimensional monitor, I can see how it would zap you. I mean, there's already been plenty of studies that have talked about blue light time, right? How it can really zap your energy. That's right. That's why Dave's got these fancy glasses on, right? But, there are a couple of things, that I know from talking to some of our clients, Dave, is seeing themselves on the monitor all the time. And that's one of the things we need to consider. But again, it's not just Zoom. I mean, I do between Zoom meetings and Google Hangout, I do on bad days. I'm saying bad, like I don't think it's great either, but it's better than the alternative, I do think, right? And that's not having much contact. On days where there's a lot, it's several hours a day of Zoom meetings. And I know, Dave, the ones that really I can feel where it's negatively impacting me, particularly back a year ago when the pandemic first hit and we were just shutting down and people were working from their home, when we didn't really know, we hadn't learned how is this really impacting us. We hadn't developed an etiquette for video conferencing as much as we have. Is that I used to do them back to frickin' back and couldn't figure out why was I so drained after these things. And so now I'm a little bit more disciplined about putting time in between these meetings. But was there anything else with that question? Because I'm sure, folks, if you haven't picked up on this yet, that Dave is one of the most prolific readers that I know. And so I'm sure that you've probably done a whole research study on this thing since this question came through.
Well, just a little bit, and then thinking about it, right? And what have I done? Because part of my job has been over the last few years is having a remote team, and my clients are remote. So I've been on Zoom pre-pandemic. That was most of my work, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that has changed for me, of course, is it went from part of my stuff on Zoom to everything. And I suffered as well from that Zoom fatigue too, whereas some of the networking groups then went to, Zoom meetings, and it was like, I just couldn't handle it. Right. The last thing that I wanted to do was have social interactions over what I used as an intense business medium. Right. Yeah. It was different. So I've had an issue with that, but so this article in National Geographic, and we'll either link it in the show notes, or you guys can look up Zoom fatigue, search Zoom fatigue, National Geographic, and it'll come up. But some of the things that they said is, and this is something to really be aware of, is they said more women experience it than men. They said 13.8% more.
Really?
Yeah, they said that. And then long days full of calls with few breaks causes it, as you said earlier.
That's me.
Viewing ourselves on the screen makes it worse. And then the lack of nonverbal cues actually taxes our brain, because we've got to work harder to really figure out, well, what is that person saying? What are they meaning? Right? We can't see the fact that they're, like right now, if you're starting to cross your legs or uncomfortably, how close you're leaning, it's harder to see those kind of things, right?
Yeah. Well, because we know that what is it, 80% of communication is nonverbal,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So you're right. Like, are you leaning in? Are my legs crossed? Are my arms crossed?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. One of the things I started doing a long time ago, almost from the start, and it is one of the things I like about Zoom that I don't see with Google Hangout. Maybe I just don't know how to do it. Is I, like right now, as we're talking, I hide my self view.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be looking at myself, because I notice people are
Yeah.
constantly looking at themselves. It's like the mirror effect or whatever
That's what
they
they call
call
it.
it,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh.
And so you have to be cautious of that for two reasons. One is most people don't like looking at themselves in the mirror. That's number one, right? Um, and number two, the people that you're speaking with, if you're not, if they don't get the sense that you're looking at them, they're not going to be as engaged, right?
Mm-hmm.
The third thing, though, I think one of the things why I do like that you can see yourself is that you and I have talked about this when we've done speaker training and that kind of thing, and or teaching people how to use it, is that it does allow you to remind yourself, hey, I need to smile.
Yeah. What do we call that?
Because as you're saying, since we're not picking up on the actual energy from us being in the same room, if I just had my default face on, the energy goes down and people might think I'm mad or pissed off or not engaged, when actually I'm just listening, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like Google Hangout, you can, and same on Zoom, you can like stop the camera and you can still be present. But to me, that feels like, I never know, are they just checking out?
Right. Are they like doing something else and not engaged? Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So those are the problems that we know about Zoom. Does National Geographic say, hey, here's some ways to combat this Zoom fatigue?
Yeah, they actually give several suggestions, and some we've
Okay.
kind of talked a little bit about, right? So
Okay.
like,
What are they?
don't have Zoom calls back to back.
Don't have them back to back. Okay. We got
And
that.
but if you have to have them back to back, if you have to have them back to back, you have a 10-minute break between, or at least some kind of a break, right? Stand up and stretch. They
Get
talk
away from the
also,
blue light, I think, if possible.
yeah. I mean,
Reset your brain.
having, like I have occupational glasses, that really helps. They have the blue light filtering, as well as helps my eyes not to strain as much.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about considering having a Zoom free day, and they say employers should really do that. Establish a day where you're just not going to be on any Zoom calls.
Interesting.
That helps you to recover, because anytime there's fatigue, that means you're tired and you need to rest and get away from whatever that activity is, right?
Oh, that's good.
And then they said, sometimes just do a regular phone call. You don't have to do a Zoom meeting itself.
Yeah.
You can just do a regular phone call, especially if it's, just one or two people. Conference them in.
Yep.
And then, one of the things they talk about is get a stand-up desk, and, you can, just stand, and like right now I have a stand-up desk, but I'm sitting. So that helps your body, any kind of body movement is going to help with fatigue.
Yeah, I've got you've got your stand-up desk, and I like that when I'm over there. Yours, you've got the adjustable type, right?
Right.
The type of stand-up desk that I have is that it's basically a platform that's spring-loaded on top of my desk.
Okay.
I push these handles and it raises up, I don't know, several inches, and I'm pretty tall, and it's tall enough for me to put my monitor on there, and that works pretty well.
Yeah.
So that does counterbalance the fatigue that is naturally setting in. I do like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then a couple of things that I do is, I think you talked about it. You don't always have to have your camera on, right? You don't always have to have it on.
Well, I think it depends. It depends. Here's where people need to exercise discernment. It depends on what type of Zoom meeting it is.
Yeah.
If I'm setting up with a client or a potential client or a sales call, you better have
you got to be on.
You better have it on, right? But if it's like where there's 30 people involved and it's a training or whatever else it is, I suppose there are times, use discernment. Don't set up a client meeting where you're trying to do a big pitch to them and say, well, Larry and Dave said, I don't need to have my camera on during this. That's not the message.
Right. Yeah, if definitely with clients you have to, and even if it's an important member, if it's an important meeting with a team member,
Yeah,
you
of
really
course.
should. Both of
Yeah.
you should have it on. But there's other times when you can interact with a team member. You're just talking, trying to work through a problem, and you're sharing a screen. You don't have to have your camera on for some
Yeah.
of that stuff, especially
Yeah.
like some of the technical stuff you may be, working on, that kind of thing. And
I'm just
then,
going to tell you, my feeling is I'm just being on these calls, a
yeah,
lot of these, when I do see people turn their camera off, I'm just going to tell you, Dave, I do wonder, all right, so what are they doing? Are they really engaged in the meeting? So
that's true.
I'm
Yeah,
just throwing that out there. So be careful when you do that.
that's true
Okay.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think the final thing that makes sense is, you don't have to be like right in front of your screen. You can get up and you can walk around. Like, I'll just get up and walk around.
Yeah.
And of course, if you have your microphone on your computer, it'll probably, pick it up. Right now, we're using really nice mics for a good
Right.
sound, but you can stand up and walk around and be a little
Right.
bit away from the camera.
Right. And again, that depends on what type of meeting it is. I agree with you.
Yes.
Yeah. Like we've
Yeah.
done that, like when we've used your whiteboard back there, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And like right now, I'm standing up and
Dave, where'd you go? Are you not engaged with this?
I'm getting a demo thing. So I have a
Yeah.
mat, right?
Right.
Anti-fatigue mat that I stand on. I'm showing
Mm-hmm.
it. So that helps. In fact, I'll still stay on it, and I'm going to adjust my monitor a little bit so you can see the top of my hair. How's
You do have
that?
high hair today. You are one handsome man.
I do. It's kind of sticking up. Yeah. So you can just do all of those things. I think one of the most important things we talked about, though, is if you're going to have to do anything, is just limit how many Zoom calls you do. If you can't do that, then put a little bit of time in between and give yourself a break. Right.
Yeah.
One of the things that always helps me is, you may see me on here drinking tea or water. It really helps. You drink a lot. And it forces you to get up and go to the bathroom every now and then.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's good.
All right.
Those are some good tips. Some good tips on Zoom fatigue.
Cool. Anything else?
No, I would just encourage people, if you got any additional tips, or you've got comments about Zoom fatigue, you think that we're just nutty, go ahead and put it in the comments, wherever you find the comments on that. And it would be helpful for us. We're trying to expand this podcast. So getting some dialogue going will actually help us do that. But we would like you to give us a thumbs up on it as well. Dave is going to remind you of that here in a minute. But if you are part of the HireMyVA program, then go to the community as well. And a couple times a month, we do calls using Zoom, and you can see how we kind of handle these things. So join in on those.
Yeah, we'd love to have you guys join our program for sure.
Yeah.
But for sure, we are glad you joined us today in this great podcast. We had a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. And but remember, for you guys, building a team, and you're going to face Zoom fatigue and all those kind of things when you have a team. But building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom, and we're here to help you. We'd love for you to do these 3 things right now. So do these. Number 1. Subscribe to this podcast if you haven't already done so. Number 2, give us a rating, preferably 5-star. If you've given us a rating already, that's great. We don't need another one, but leave a comment, as Larry said, below the video. Any comment, if you have a question or whatever, because it helps us to spread the word. And then number 3, go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and community. Remember, because even without experience, you can learn how to prepare for hire and thrive with virtual assistants. Larry and I have helped folks. We're continuing to help folks. We'd love to help you too. So just go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
That's right. Hey, do yourself a favor, my friends. Do the world a favor. Go do something absolutely significant today. All right, my friends. God bless you. God keep you. God hold you. All right. Go get them. We'll see you later.
Bye.